Mayor, council members, thank you for having me tonight. Let's stand for invocation. Heavenly Father, today we stand before your presence, Lord, as servants, not only to you and your kingdom, but to your community and your people. Lord, we pray for wisdom in these chambers tonight. We pray that the same spirit you bestowed upon Solomon, Lord, be bestowed upon our mayor and his council. We pray for your protection of their lives and their families, the lives and the families of the police chief and fire chief. We pray for every family represented here tonight, and we ask that through the guidance of your Holy Spirit and in the name of Jesus, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. In his holy name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. If I could have a roll call, please.
Lambert, Begonia, Jones, Lewis, Yanes.
Here. We have a quorum. Item 4, consideration of the approval of the agenda. Councilmember Jones. Do I have a second? Councilmember Lambert.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right. Motion passes. Thank you. Move on to item 5, presentations. Oh, what? Yes. All right. Vinny Greco, come on up. All right, Vinny. Vinny is a police officer with Los Banos PD in recognition of your outstanding performance and dedicated service to the city of Los Banos for being named Employee of the Month for October 2023. Congratulations. Yep. Awesome.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, sir.
You have to take one for commanders, I'm just saying. All right. Mike Hughes, will you come on up, sir? You are representing the VFW tonight, I understand? All right. This is a proclamation commemorating Veterans Day, November 11, 2023. Whereas the freedom we enjoy as Americans have been purchased and maintained at a high price throughout our history, and whereas since the establishment of the original 13 states, Americans have been willing to fight and die to preserve their individual rights and guaranteed in the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And whereas we owe a great debt to those who have served in defense of this nation and throughout the generations, their sacrifices have preserved our unique form of government dedicated to human rights and respect for individuals. And whereas for many, the sacrifices ended in permanent injury of death, yet their spirit remains in the continued preservation of our freedoms and the promise of liberty established as an example for all the oppressed persons in the world. And whereas in honor of these dedicated men and women, we pledge our continued defense of our nation so that their sacrifice will stand before an entire world as a tribute to the spirit and determination of people dedicated to the principles of freedom and democracy. Now, therefore be it proclaimed that the mayor and city council members of the city of Los Banos call upon our citizens to salute all veterans who have served with honor and distinction and to observe this day with appropriate ceremonies in honor of our veterans, both living and deceased, who have served this country so willingly to preserve the principles of justice, freedom, and democracy, to fly the flag, and to show our veterans we appreciate their great sacrifice. Thank you.
Thank you. And we hope to see everybody at our Veterans Parade, which is this Saturday, the 4th. We will be there and hope to see all of you there.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. Oh, photo op. So you're running off too? All right, thank you. Item 6, public forum. Members of the public may address the city council members on any item of public interest that is within the jurisdiction of the city council. This includes agenda and non-agenda items. No action will be taken on non-agenda items. Speakers are limited to a 5-minute presentation. Detailed guidelines are posted on the back of the city council information chambers. This time I'd like to invite the public to come forward and speak, and just remind those to either silence or turn off your cell phones.
Hello again. I would like to make comments on your consent agenda, item E and item H. On E, if Mr. Kuhn is not an employee, why are we comparing him to other city employees' salaries range that include benefits? The salary of one employee in the finance department in the city of Merced, Mary V. Rodriguez, is $190,600. This amount does not include benefits. That is the comparison that needs to be done since Mr. Kuhn is not an employee. Unsure if this $165 per hour includes all travel expense, since only lodging expense and other out-of-pocket expenses is listed without brackets. Please explain clearly if air, auto, and meals is Mr. Kuhn's expense that won't be reimbursed to him. Those are the items that are inside the bracket. I'm not sure where Mr. Kuhn lives, but travel time could be anywhere from 3 to 4 hours or more if he's driving on a clear traffic day with no delays and no problems at an airport. That amounts to approximately $1,320 per trip at 9 times per month, totaling almost close to $12,000 per month. I strongly request that a local applicant be hired or a job posting put up to do so. This should have been done before a citizen brought this to your attention. You're getting really good at covering your after the fact. And I also got a text message mentioning something else that I'm not aware of because I'm not an independent contractor. Does Mr. Kuhn have other clients? Does he qualify as an independent contractor since, as per the definition of the IRS? Since we're requesting him to work 40 hours per week and be in the office 9 days a month. The next question I have is on item H. How come at our Measure H meeting this wasn't brought up? I'm sure it's been in the works for a while. Advisory means prior to disbursements. At least that's what I assume, since I am on the Measure H committee. I wouldn't be questioning everything on our agenda or on talking negative if I trusted our city officials and city manager. How long before you put a special tax out there to refill our coffers? Because we don't think before we spend, and then we do so freely. How much longer till you cost us money to grab more power that you seem to be enjoying? Again, I'll ask to have our meetings changed to 7 p.m. This way more citizens can be involved and be able to attend and voice their opinions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. I too have questions about item E in the consent agenda. But before that, I would like, and I think I asked last time, for an update, a homeless update. The last time we talked about what the city was going to do and the grant that was being applied for and how we were going to use it was a number of months ago. And I have not heard or seen anything from that point. I know we're waiting, but I'm sure there are other things that we're doing also. I mean, do we have a plan B just in case we don't get that funding? It's difficult when we're not informed as to what's going on. And I don't mean on a daily basis. I mean, but once every couple months, we should at least know what is happening, where we stand, and what we are doing to address this issue. It's an important issue. It's brought up every single city council meeting, and I haven't heard one thing about it since April when I started talking about it, not even before that. So I would appreciate a public update as to what is going on with our homeless population, who is building houses, by the way, on the rail trail. It's not just little camps. It's really nice houses out there hammering and nailing every single day. So I encourage you to go back to the rail trail and take a look at the homes that are being built tax-free behind us. Along that same note is, I've heard a number of things being brought up, other issues, ARPA money, other things that, again, I haven't heard anything from this council addressing any of it. I would like some follow-up, and I can provide a list per email on all the things that I've seen and heard that I have not seen addressed. 7E, the interim city manager. I agree with Kathy Ballard. The amount seems way out of line. If you look at, if you just do any kind of research whatsoever, $26,400 per month is $316,800 for the year. That is not including benefits. He's responsible for his own benefits. $165 an hour for travel when, let's just assume he travels up twice a month because he has to be here 9 days. He's working from home the other 40 hours. And he has to be here, let's say it's twice a month. That's $1,980. 2 times, that's $3,960 per month. That's $47,520 for a year. Add that to the $316,800 his salary is, and it's $364,320. I couldn't find anywhere that anyone was being paid that amount of money. For larger cities, for Sacramento, the highest I could find was $220,000 total, and that's an employee with benefits. So for a city of 40,000 people, that seems way, way out of line. And I would like some type of reasoning why we can't hire somebody and bring that amount down. Thank you.
Thank you.
At the last city council meeting, I addressed the contract with the finance director that is fraudulent and how the company that's been managing the city's finances cannot legally conduct business. Now on tonight's consent agenda, the city manager is trying to silently replace that fraudulent contract with another fraudulent contract, and without holding anybody accountable for enabling the fraud. In the discussion section of the staff report, it states that the current contract is for an hourly rate of $150, plus expenses such as travel and lodging. That is not factual. Nowhere in the contract that I have right here does it state that travel expenses are to be reimbursed or that travel time is to be compensated for. The contract states that payment is only for the work performed. However, based on the invoices from BWK Consulting, for the past 16 months, the city has been paying for both travel time and travel expenses, with some months having over $6,000 in travel expenses. When you add in compensation for travel time, some months have had nearly $8,000 in payment that was not part of the approved contract. So not only do we have a fraudulent contract, but we have fraudulent invoices that weren't caught either. Payments that were made that were not part of the contract. Who approved these invoices? In the first paragraph of the proposed professional services agreement, it states the agreement is between the City of Los Banos and Brent Kuhn, an individual. AB 5, sometimes referred to as the gig worker bill, has virtually eliminated the ability to hire individuals as independent contractors in California. This is what Uber has been fighting for 4 years, and it's been all over the news. Under AB 5, individuals are presumed to be an employee unless the hiring entity can prove they're not by passing a 3-part test known as the ABC test. The city fails all 3 parts of that test, and the type of work does not qualify for an exemption. So Brent Kuhn can only be hired as an employee, not as an independent contractor. This proposed professional services agreement is in violation of the California Labor Code and should not be entered into. The solution to a fraudulent contract is not to sweep it under the rug and replace it with another fraudulent contract. You need to hold the people accountable that are responsible for allowing this fraud to occur so it doesn't happen again. That includes those who failed to perform the proper due diligence when hiring BWK Consulting and those who were supposed to provide oversight of the finance director. I'm requesting the City Council to pull item E from the consent agenda and ask the City Manager why a new contract is necessary for the finance director. I'm also requesting the City Council to ask the City Manager why he stated that travel expenses are a part of the current agreement when they are not included in the official contract given to me as part of an official records request. I'm also requesting the City Council to ask the City Manager who approves the finance director's invoices. My understanding is that the Finance Department receives and approves invoices, so I'm hoping that we have not given the Finance Director a blank check to pay himself whatever he feels is appropriate. I'm also requesting the City Council to inquire about recouping the payments that were made for travel expenses that were not included in the contract. And finally, I'm requesting the City Council to vote against the proposed professional services agreement because it would be in violation of the California Labor Code if the city enters into it.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tia Hudson, and I would like to begin with addressing two items on the consent agenda. Item G to begin with. I am disappointed that this is on the consent agenda. The hiring of a new chief of police is not routine business. In fact, it is a matter of significant community interest and should be subject to thorough discussion and public scrutiny, not relegated to a consent agenda item. Officer Reyna has served this community for many years and should be celebrated for his dedication and years of service, which have greatly contributed to the ongoing safety and well-being of our community. Thank you so much for all of your years of service, and congratulations, Chief. Also, item E. Again, this matter should not be on the consent agenda. Our city has encountered issues related to their negligence in their due diligence in its contract with the current interim finance director, whose business, BWK Consulting LLC, is currently not legally authorized to conduct business. These concerns were brought to public attention during past council meetings, not to mention the huge amount of taxpayer funds that have already been paid to the interim finance director. Now, there is a proposal by the city manager to establish a new agreement with the interim finance director, Brent Kuhn, this time under his personal name. The public perceives this move as an attempt to obscure prior irregularities and potential fraud by asserting a change in the scope of work necessitating a new contract. Additionally, the city manager's decision to place this matter on the consent agenda, avoiding public discussion and scrutiny, contributes to the perception that the city may be concealing certain aspects of the situation. Moreover, the very first item, item A of this newly proposed professional services agreement, states that the city, quote, requires the services of an interim finance director for an undetermined period of time until the position is filled. Does that mean that this position is currently being recruited for? I do not see it listed on the government jobs or City of Los Banos website. To me, it looks like the city manager and this council have chosen. They've chosen that this is the guy. This is the finance director indefinitely because the city is making no effort to recruit a local candidate. Is this the best that we can get? A guy who has been operating illegally for the past 16 months and you want him in charge of our money? Not to mention public funds are being allocated to reimburse his travel expenses. It is worth noting that his current and new in-person work requirement of just 9 days a month appears disproportionate to the resources being expended. In other matters, a month ago, my husband and I came before this council as private citizens and longtime residents of Los Banos to read a letter written by a collective of Los Banos associations, a letter that detailed their dissatisfaction with the city manager and the actions of the current city council. That night wasn't about Ben, it wasn't about me. It was about the message being delivered and those city employees who fear that they cannot speak up for themselves. After reading the letter, a disconcerting incident occurred. A member of this council directed a verbal threat towards our business, expressing disbelief in our perceived disloyalty, especially in light of the support we had received from this council member over the years. It has come to our attention that this support seemingly came with certain expectations. This council member went to the extent of demanding that we, quote, write a check back to the city, end quote, for the recent ARPA grant that we rightfully applied for and received. In addition, threats have been made regarding our upcoming move to a new building next year. We recognize that instead of addressing criticisms and concerns raised by constituents and city employees about genuinely significant issues, it appears that the approach taken is to target the messenger. It is essential to underscore the alarming nature of the council member's reaction and behavior. Such an egregious response is far from typical of individuals who operate with a clear conscience and a commitment to professionalism. This level of reaction and intimidation is wholly unacceptable and unprofessional, and it underscores the importance of addressing concerns and differences in a constructive and transparent manner within our local government. I firmly believe that an open and accountable civic environment benefits everyone in our community. In conclusion, I would like to implore all Las Banos residents to remain engaged, informed, and actively involved in our community's affairs. I encourage you to thoroughly review meeting agendas to gain insight into how your hard-earned tax dollars are allocated. Moreover, I invite you to participate in these meetings, enabling you to voice your concerns and share your ideas. Through collaborative engagement, we can foster an environment of growth and progress that benefits us all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. I just want to say again, we need an animal advisory committee. You have committees for trees, parks, everything. And last meeting, it was brought up at the end during the wrap-up. Council Member Lambert said that the items that people bring up here at the public forum, he mentioned homelessness and the animal shelter, are in the works. We're working on it. You'll get information once the reports are done or once decisions are made, something to that effect. Okay, and then it's going to end up on a consent agenda, and then it's too late. So we want to be more involved. The people, the public want to be involved in the decisions as they're being made and have the opportunity to speak and provide opinions before it gets on here and, stamped approval. So I'm asking for that again. People want it, and we definitely need it. It's not just for the construction of the animal shelter, it's for the ongoing care of the animals. You say people are working on it, public heads, department heads are working on it. They're not animal sheltering professionals. They don't have experience in that, so why won't they take some input from people who have that? It just doesn't make any sense. So I'm just going to keep coming every time there's a meeting and saying, we still want this. And I'm going to try to get other people to come and say the same thing because it's not going away. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Yulee, and on that note, I will concur with everything that Bev just said. We do need an animal advisory commission. I think it's a long overdue, and it could be a huge asset to the city. Additionally, I'm a little concerned as to what's happening with the shelter. I know the time is limited on the funds that are to be used for it, and hopefully we don't just see it disappear and be used for something else. I'm not sure what's going on, and I hope you all up here are. It'd be nice to hear back from everyone, or somebody, what exactly is in the works, if anything, at this point. I know there was some discussion about a project a little while back, but my understanding is that is not going on anymore. I don't really know, though. So it'd be nice to know what's happening with our shelter. And on that note, the shelter is sort of the end of the line for most of the animals in this town. The idea of a no-kill shelter is amazing and awesome, but the problem really stems from the very beginning, when people get their pets, when people don't get their animals fixed, when they allow them to breed unchecked, when they give pets away to other people and they don't get their animals spayed and neutered. And our resources are so slim in this town. I know I've brought this up numerous times, and it would just be nice. I think an animal advisory commission would be really helpful in maybe figuring out ways to make future grant funds that are available through organizations throughout the state and the country, and maybe find ways to use that where it doesn't have to be at the end of the line at the shelter, but at the beginning. To, like education, great, fine and dandy. So we educate people on spaying and neutering their pets. There's nowhere for them to do it around here that is really cost that will work for most people's budgets, truthfully. And getting appointments is hard. There's no early spay and neuter in this town. The spay and neuter at the vet starts at 5 months within the community, although most spay and neuter clinics do 2 pounds and up. So it's just, I feel like it's this insurmountable mountain that we're just dealing with here, and there's ways that we could address it, but it's not going to be addressed by throwing money at the shelter at the end of the line. It needs to be addressed at the beginning, and that's with the community members and the stray animals on the street. And one more note, I'd like to say congratulations to Ray Reyna, and I'm super happy to see that our new chief of police is hired from within. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, city staff, fellow residents, good evening. Thank you for recognizing Veterans Day. It's a very important event, very significant in American history and what it signifies for the sacrifices that so many men and women have done. And Veterans Day, again, is different from Memorial Day in that Veterans Day is for anybody who's ever worn the Armed Forces uniform. But what strikes me as being odd is that in the proclamation there, we're talking about liberties in our form of government, yet this council is doing everything contrary to what the veterans have enlisted and sacrificed for. There's no openness, there's no disclosure, there's no discussion, there's no oversight, there's no accountability, there's no public input is not allowed. Decisions are made behind closed doors. They're presented to us as a fait accompli, but yet the taxpayers are the ones who have to pay the bill, regardless of whether it's a good plan or a bad plan. Now, inevitably, some of these plans are going to be good, but I think the most important thing is that there must be public input. You cannot have these items, which are not routine in nature, as part of the consent agenda. That's just not our form of government. You know, when then the colonists won their freedom from Great Britain, each individual colony signed its individual ceasefire or end hostilities with Great Britain, because each colony was then a separate state, i.e. a separate country. And it was termed a great experiment. The great experiment is, are people capable of governing themselves, or do they need government to tell them what to do, how to do it, and how to spend their money? Well, I can tell you that if the last 240 some odd years are an example, we can, and we have proven that we can govern ourselves. And again, the city council is doing everything contrary to what our founding principles are. Great assumption is with the, for example, the appointment and selection of Commander Reyna as our next police chief. That should have been a public discussion, allowed folks to comment, and that would have helped to bring the community together. It's a significant event. And then, again, congratulations, Commander, for your upcoming appointment. But instead, we do it as a consent agenda, not allowing the public discourse. Moving on. I've asked, and some folks have asked about the update on the ANZA. I've asked Mr. Begonia for an update, and he said no report during his time when he had the opportunity to provide a report or say, hey, I don't have anything, I will get back to you. Just common courtesy. Mr. Pinero, the same thing. You do nothing but look down. You don't look, you don't engage with anybody. These decisions, putting these items are your decisions, and they come based on what? why are we having these decisions made? That's because of lack of experience, and that's what's happening here. And again, it's not his fault. He just doesn't have the experience, but you're allowing him to do these things. And so it's your responsibility, not his. I fault the council, not Mr. Pinero, because he doesn't have the experience. You should know better. Again, we're asking for these things. These things it's a requirement for you to report these things. Stop putting these things on the consent agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before we proceed to the consent agenda, everything that's on the agenda, I ask. I've been sitting here for the rest of the meetings all the time, and every time I see, I want to defend Deborah Lewis. I don't think it's fair the way she's been treated with a lot of things that she says. She pulls out the agendas, and I feel like comments that are snarky in a sense like, oh wow, you pulled all the agenda items, like. I feel like she's not being included in everything, and she doesn't know everything, and she's getting emails, but she's not getting emails, so it's unclear to what's going on. And I feel like, as in a football team, they go in a huddle together. They don't leave the QB, the running back, the wide receivers, without knowing what the play is going to be. I feel like, as a group of leaders that are leading this community, I feel like it's your responsibility, especially as a mayor, allowing or having her included to know that everything's going on. If you know she's going to pull agenda items, why not include her? Why not council members include her instead of isolating her out? It's something that's not nice to see. She's the only lady on the council. How do we treat ladies? It's like, what if that was your sister? What if that was your mother? What if? That's the way I see it. I feel like, regardless of different opinions, as in good leadership, you would show and know how to compromise. Something I've been learning with my being married, compromising with agreements with what we agree or don't agree with. Let her know what's going on, or let each other know what's going on. But other than that, the ARPA funds. So there was never a scoring system showed. Nothing ever as to what business got what for what reason or what. There was no tier system as to why this business got that, why this business got that. I honestly believe Valley View CrossFit, Graciano, friend of mine, should have got the max. I put that I wanted the max on an email saying that I got what I asked for, which is they gave me 20, and I asked for 25. And then another business friend of mine from over there, Mimosa's Courtyard, she only got 19, when Tony's got the full amount. So it's like, she has employees, she has everything to go for. She asked for the max. It's like, what was the scoring system? And I know I'm not going to get an answer. I know there's no tier system that was gone. It was just whoever decided between everyone in the council or between them that who wanted to get what amount or what was awarded to. So yeah, I feel like it's confusing. And then I spoke to two council members so far, where they both told me they were the ones that came up with the idea on lowering it from 50,000 to 25,000, so more funds could be allocated to small businesses, which makes me confused as to what's going on. But yeah, I feel like as someone from the town who's not new, but new coming to all this, I feel like there's not much control of the government here. Like, I feel like everyone's in their own shell and not disclosing everything to the public. Everything seems like what is really going on, and we don't know. I feel like that's what is coming from a lot of us, that confusion. And yeah, so I just ask that from, I don't know, more transparency, more leadership, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
All right, Roy Todd, representing volunteer member of the local Chamber of Commerce here. just want to keep you posted on things as they stand. We have a total of 7 events in 2023, and we just completed our 6th of the 7th on October 27th, my dad's birthday. Anyway, which was the Halloween trunk or treat. It all went well with that, and we moved it around a little bit in order to accommodate some other groups to make sure that everybody could do their trunk or treating at different times. And I think by my count, my trunk gave out something like 100 pounds of candy in the span of about an hour and 45 minutes. Then I ran out. Anyway, so it was a really good event from that standpoint. The 7th and last but not least will be the Chamber Annual Christmas Parade and tree lighting, and that's going to be on December 2nd. So we all look forward to that. And one of the things, a little bit on a personal note, on the consent agenda, letter G, I just wanted to offer my congratulations to you, sir. And I know we've spent a little bit of time together out on the field, not under the greatest circumstances sometimes, but it's always been able to get things done. So I appreciate it. And then the other thing is we do have the upcoming Veterans Parade, which is a week before the actual Veterans Day, and that's to accommodate some of the bigger parades that happen around the folks. And so we look forward to attending all those things. And then one other thing, a little bit off the cuff, but one idea I had was sitting there because I like to try to solve problems. I don't want to win an argument. I just want to solve a problem. All right. And so one thing I think we could do, these public hearings are always one way, and I'm sure that's because you get legal advice in order to do it that way. All right. So, with that being said, I know like in somewhere like Fresno and so forth, they'll have like the state of the city, or maybe we have like a town council, what do you call it, like a town meeting or whatever. So some of these things could be addressed, and then, what's the most important? And let's Pareto it by most important, and we could work our way down because there's only going to be X amount of time, but let's work on first things first and work our way down that way. And I think that would be something that maybe I could talk to the chamber and maybe some other groups as to maybe to sponsor such a thing, and maybe we could do something to start working together and get stuff done. That's just my 2 cents. So if you guys are with me, let me know. Otherwise, we'll keep at it and we'll do the best we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, council, mayor, and staff. My name is Blanche George, and I live downtown, borderline between Section 4. I don't know the formal name, but I consider myself downtown. Before I start speaking about what I came up to speak, on a personal note, it is, if it passes, if it goes through, I knew, and a lot of us knew, Commander Reyna when he was a young boy. And he and his father have been genuine individuals, forthright, good people. So if everything goes well, I'm so glad. Thank you. But he was a little guy. So I'm here to speak as an Elk member. We did have our Halloween costume contest. It was well attended, and everybody came together as a group. And that, what I mean by that, it was really a community event. It was where there was individuals that were not only Elks, but the community and the pets came together. There was no fussing and fighting with the pets. Everything was really wonderful. We had wonderful prizes. And additionally, we had booths that were there. All different kinds of booths all came together, even though they were coming from different positions. The star of the show was our animal shelter. I do want to mention these names. Well, first of all, Commander Reyna, thank you. Sergeant Ivan, thank you. And I don't know titles, so there's Jason, Jen, Suzanne, Adrienne. And then also there are two individuals that work at the shelter that are working really hard, and it's to be commendable. And then Joe carries up with the dog park and the parks that dogs get to enjoy. But back to this event. We raised just the community putting something together in a back of a pickup truck, besides all the cleaning products, all the kitty litter, all the gallons of toys for cats and dogs. We were able to also collect in poundage 1,100 pounds of dog and cat food. Along with that, we are in the middle of purchasing full pallets and cases of food for the shelter. They specifically need kitten kibble and kitten wet food. And so anybody that wants to stop by, call in and let them know that you're coming in with your neighbors all got together, and they'd be really grateful. So the event was well attended. It was a coming together. And we were also able to, before I leave, we were also able to get collars that say "Adopt Me." So for those of individuals that don't like handkerchiefs, or I don't know what these are called, but I did have a partner. She couldn't be here. She has a dog, and his name is Winsome, and he takes priority. But I wish my partner would have been here. And the Elks were all supportive. Like I said, we raised a lot of money. And we had a lot of individuals that gave money. So then that way we could buy those extra pallets. But thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I really want to say again, on stepping off back on a personal note, thank you, each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. You might not hear it all the time, and there's a lot of people that won't, maybe come to these events because these meetings. But we appreciate you totally within our hearts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? All right. This time I'll close the public forum. Move into item 7, consideration of approval of the consent agenda.
Items on the consent agenda are as follows. Warrant numbers 241449 through 241667 in the amount of $867,920.46. Minutes for the September 6, 2023 City Council meeting. Minutes for the October 4th, 2023 City Council meeting. City Council Resolution Number 6702, approving closure of non-essential city offices on Tuesday, December 26, 2023, due to the Christmas holiday season. City Council Resolution Number 6703, approving a professional services agreement for interim finance director services with Brent Kuhn. City Council Resolution Number 6704, amending the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget by increasing the appropriation amount in the general fund maintenance account in the amount of $12,214 for the expenditure of a backhoe tractor attachment. City Council Resolution Number 6705, ratifying the city manager's approval of the employment agreement with Police Chief Raimundo M. Reyna Jr. City Council Resolution Number 6706, amending the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget by increasing the appropriation amount in the Measure H account in the amount of $94,470 for the expenditure of the installation of 4 playgrounds. And the items are to be approved as submitted.
All right, thank you for that. Before I go to any council members who want to pull any items, I'm going to request in the interest of the public, we pull item E for discussion. And do I have anyone else? Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you. Yes, I'm also going to make a request to pull item E for a separate discussion and vote. Item F for a separate discussion and separate vote. And item H for a separate discussion and a separate vote. So all of the 3 items, E, F, and H, I'd like a separate vote on them.
All right. E. Yeah. All right, so we'll start with E, and I'll give you a minute to step out. Do you want to, because 2 council members pulled it? Doesn't matter how, because 2 council members pulled the same item, doesn't matter who starts. Oh, okay, I'll go first. My questions are actually for our city attorney, related to the public comment related to the labor code and AB 5 specifically. I know that your job is to review labor contracts with the city and tell us what we can legally can and cannot do. So I think my question is based on some input from the general public, and I wish that person would have stuck around. What is, can we hire him, I guess?
Well, I'll give you the conclusion first, but I'll give you the rationale second. AB 5 is not as simple as it was stated at the podium. There is a number of tests that are gone through to determine whether a particular person is an independent contractor or an employee. AB 5 is a simplified test, but the typical test is what's called the Borello test, which is a famous case in California. And more than 3 points that you take a look at, it really has 13 different things you take a look at to determine whether the person is an employee versus an independent contractor. Not one of those 13 overrides any of the other 13, and then it's kind of a balancing test once you take a look at those 13 factors. So the factors typically are, number one, the type of services that you're hiring, difference between, for instance, hiring a desk clerk versus hiring a city attorney or hiring a finance director. It's the degree of specialized skills that take into account whether or not the person is independent, being independent contractor. And that is particularly important in that it gets to the degree of supervision that the employer or the hiring company has over the actual way the services are performed. The more specialized those services are, the more things like finance directors, things like city engineers, the more specialized things those are and the more education those require. Typically, that is a big factor as to whether or not, or one of the factors as to whether that person can be an independent contractor, assuming some of the other factors apply. Currently, the city has independent contractors in the Public Works Department. Public Works Director is independent contractor. We contract with Precision Engineering to provide those services. In building department, we currently have an independent contractor who's a CSG, who's providing our building services. So it's not unusual in an organization such as this. I'm an independent contractor. It's not unusual to have independent contractors filling those positions that you could have a regular employee fill as well. So you go through these 13 factors. I'm not going to go through them tonight, but you also take a look at, does the contractor have other clients and other business? And in this case, this particular case, this contractor does have other clients and other business that he does, not just the city business. He's, as I understand it, he's finance director for 2 successor agencies and a private company. So that is one of the major factors, is whether or not the person providing the service is providing it to others as well, as opposed to a 40-hour-a-week employee who's providing those services directly to the city. One of the other factors too is the permanence of the position, and in this case, as you note, it's interim finance director. It's not permanent finance director, and so one of the factors is essentially the permanence of the relationship. And it's my understanding that this relationship is because of the vacancy in what would typically be provided by an employee, our former finance director. And it's not unusual to have independent contractors step in and fill those positions. Again, it's kind of a multi-factored analysis that you take a look at, that there's no one, I got you, yes, this is what it is. The law isn't like that in the world of independent contractors. You have to take a lot of different factors, apply them to this Barella test, and determine whether or not we have an independent contractor or an employee relationship. So you take all of those things into account, and I believe the city is on firm legal ground to determine whether or not they want to fill this position with an independent contractor. So that's the legal analysis of the independent contractor versus employee. I would, well, I don't know this to be true, but I believe that there are other small cities within the valley that have contracted for these types of services as well. Maybe not currently, but over the course of events, would have contracted for independent contractors that come in and to fill these services. So I'm comfortable that Mr. Kuhn, if his contract was approved tonight, I'm okay with it being an independent contractor.
All right, thank you for that. And then my second question, as it relates to, did you have anything else?
One of the other factors too is the overhead. Is the employee or the contractor providing their own overhead? In this case, we have travel, we have things like that, where Mr. Kuhn is paying his own overhead. He's gonna. It's kind of a. It feels like to me it's a separate business and apart from what a city employee, for instance. So you wouldn't expect a city employee to be paying their own overhead for coming to work every day.
All right, thank you. And then my second question, as it relates to, and I understand just in my experience with business contracts, there is an errors and omissions section. But the BWK LLC, my understanding is that was actually brought to the council and signed by former city manager Greg Willman under that.
I don't recall, no.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, by the former mayor. Yeah, I'm sorry. As to that contract
Yeah,
was
I
entered
think at that time, the finance director had left with with a short period of notice to the city, and the finance director position, and what the finance director position does is an important cog in the city. So it was quickly determined that Mr. Kuhn had a history with the city going back probably 10 or 15 years in providing professional services, and so that's how that contract came about. In retrospect, I think Mr. Kuhn would tell us that shouldn't have been with his LLC, and that he didn't realize what was going on with the LLC. So part of this new contract will clean up that issue.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
I will say that contracting with a suspended LLC is not, quote unquote, a fraudulent agreement. It is an agreement that could be voided by the city, not by Mr. Kuhn. So there are rules about LLCs conducting business when they've been suspended for whatever reason. Usually it's not for paying your franchise fee, your yearly franchise fee. And so it's not that it's a fraudulent contract at all. I'm certain there are plenty of contractors out there doing business who are suspended, and that doesn't make it fraudulent. It gives the person that contracts with them the ability to void the contract. And so the city could void that contract, was essentially what the city's being asked to do tonight. But it's not fraudulent. The services were provided. The services were provided per the agreement. It's just that the entity was suspended at the time.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. I'll defer to you, Councilmember Lewis.
I'm going to, since this staff report is from our city manager, Mr. Panera, I'm going to address my questions to him. The first question I have is on page, well, it's on page 2 of the resolution. Item number 4, compensation. The number 4 paragraph. Could you explain that? I think that was a question that was brought up by a community member about the actual expenses that are included in the salary, and whether or not the ones in the bracket are part of the salary, and the ones outside of the bracket, whether they are to be paid or is it part of the salary?
$165 an hour, as it says.
That's
For
not the
professional
question that I
services,
asked.
including travel time, payable bi-monthly or monthly. The hourly fee is inclusive of all travel expenses, air, auto, and meals, lodging expenses, and other out-of-pocket expenses incurred by consultant performance of the professional services.
Okay, and I'd like to ask you to speak up when I have a question because I can barely hear you. So what you're saying tonight is all of the expenses, including auto, air, meals, lodging, will be a part of the $165 that you're paying him an hour.
The hourly fee is inclusive of all actual travel expenses, air, auto, and meals.
So I can answer that question. I think what it's trying to say, and maybe it doesn't say it as clearly as it could, is that the only compensation that the consultant will get is $165 per hour for services provided. That does include travel time, which is customary, but it does not include the costs of the travel, such as renting a car, flying a plane, motel, meals, gas, parking, all those types of things that are going to be covered by the consultant through his business, essentially. So the only obligation the city will have is the straight hourly compensation based on an itemization of his time on a monthly basis.
Okay. And the paragraph is not written well. That's why I think the question comes up. So thank you for clearing that up on the record.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. It says the hourly fee is inclusive of all actual travel expenses, which means the hourly fee includes those expenses. And then there are examples such as air, auto, meal, and lodging expenses. That was only designed to be an example of what those actual expenses could be and any other out-of-pocket expenses. I don't know how else you could say that. Like, we could have spent 3 paragraphs coming up with all the types of expenses that it would be inclusive of. So those are examples of expenses that are inclusive of the hourly fee that are not part of what the city will be paying. He will have to pay his own expenses out of the $165 an hour.
Okay, thank you for the
Sure.
clarification. The next question I have is, under the scope of duties for the new contract, it's far more extensive than the one we had before. And when I pull the job spec for the position, it's basically word for word the same thing. But there were 2 things that were left out, and that is maintaining skills through continuing education and attending various meetings and training, which to me is a way to assure the city and the public that this position that's being filled by Mr. Kuhn as requested, that he's going to be current on what duties and expectations he has to execute his job based on whatever new laws may come up in the state of California and so on.
So those would be typical of an employee, but not of an independent contractor. You're hiring an independent contractor with a degree in finance and whatever else education he has and whatever other professional credentials he has. And as an independent contractor, it's up to him to keep those up to date. I assume if this was over a longer period of time, that is potential for, there could be some discussion about that, but those aren't the types of things that you would put an independent contractor type agreement. For instance, if I hired a plumber as an independent contractor, I wouldn't be adding to that he's going to keep up with all the latest, stuff. So that's why the scope of services is different for an independent contractor than it is for an employee.
I would just also just to add to that I wouldn't want that in the scope, because then the assumption would be made we're going to pay him $165 an hour to go continue his own professional development.
Well, I wouldn't consider that. I would expect someone to continue their professional development so that our city is safe and we don't have to worry about lawsuits. Okay, so my next question is for Mr. Pinero. We have a lot of job openings on our city website, some that were approved in the new budget that don't show, such as assistant fire chief, assistant city manager. Have you released a job announcement for the financial director position?
No.
We've had Mr. Brett Kuhn for 17 months now. When do you plan to open up this position for applicants?
As I inherited, when I came to this position, Brent Kuhn was here. I've had the opportunity to work with Brent Kuhn. At the moment, Brent Kuhn was done a good job of working with us and working with the city. He's done a great job in building a relationship with staff. And as he's done so, we went through the budget with him, and I've enjoyed the working relationship with him as he continues to work with us and make us better. And so as of now, and the time that we are working with him, I feel it's a good fit for us to continue to collaborate with him, and specifically on many of the projects that we're working on throughout the city. And I feel it's a good time for us to continue to maintain our relationship with him, and thus I assumed this contract, and we are updating this contract so he can be here of more time and more service to us, and continue to help us as a city move forward.
So basically what I'm hearing for you is that you don't have any plans to put out an announcement for
At the moment,
that position. No. Okay, and nothing in the future. So again, we have a situation here, 17 months of a person who is not a employee of the city of Los Banos, yet we're paying a lot of money, which, at the hourly rate, and the expenses that, out-of-pocket expenses that we're going to pay him is pretty much equivalent to a full-time employee, in my opinion. Over the past 14 months, we've paid him $384,820 and some change. His monthly salary averaged about $27,487.20. This new contract is for $26,400. And even at $26,400, that's $316, $316,800. So it's a lot of money. And in the report, it talks about this is below the top level of paying our manager for that position. But to really determine that, you'd have to know what the benefit package is. We don't know what the benefit package is. This could be mid-range. It could be a little bit above mid-range of what we're paying him. But nonetheless, you know, every employee of the city, including the city manager, he has a packet. He's building a retirement. And so are other employees building a retirement. But yet we're keeping on someone who is not a regular staff member, who in this contract would be here up to 40 hours a week, which I'm not sure how anyone can handle 40 hours a week here and still handle contracts with other agencies. And required to be in the office a minimum of 9 days a month. So that's still, you know, they're still not accessible in person to our staff here. A full-time employee would be accessible to staff here in the office, in the city, whether it's in administration, police, fire, public works, whatever department. They are available because they work for all of those departments in their budgets. So it just seems unfortunate to me that there's been a double down here, not to consider looking to hire someone and bring them in full-time into our city. Mr. Brett Kuhn cannot answer some of the questions that I had for him, but I looked at his invoices that he submitted to the city, and there was a total of $21,750 that was billed for travel. But yet what we paid him was a total of $56,121.05. Can someone answer why we were paying more than what he billed? I thought everything according to the other contract had to be on the invoices. So there's a discrepancy here as to why he's billed something and we paid him more than double amount than what he billed for. That there has to be an answer, and I'm assuming that maybe there's something that's not on these invoices that he submitted for payment, but that's a big discrepancy of $34,337 and pennies that we have paid him that was not on the invoice.
So if I may, I took a quick look at the invoices because those have been requested by the public and by you, Mrs. Lewis. And if you'll note, Mr. Kuhn's invoices itemize his hours times $150 at the bulk, the main part of his monthly invoice. And then at the bottom of the invoice, he has a line item for travel expenses, and each one of those invoices that I looked at had a line item for travel expenses in addition to the hourly amount. So and then if you'll notice, I believe I saw notations on each of the invoices where they were paid the invoice amount. So I don't know what your calculations are, but the invoices that I looked at both showed hours and expenses. If this contract is approved tonight, we will only be paying for hours, not expenses.
Well, I'm not sure what you have in hand, but what was given to me, I'll give you an example. On the August 1st, 2022, the first, there was one request, 2 hours for travel. And apparently the city's paying him $150 for that, so that's $300. At the bottom where it says travel costs, what was paid to him was $922.32. So
So that
was
would
there
have been the
something different on the invoice that you have?
So the 922.32 represents his out-of-pocket airline, rental car, whatever he spent on travel. That's what a travel cost is. That is different than billing travel time, which is the time he spent going portal to portal. Hopefully he spent some of that time doing city business while he was doing that, but there's a difference there between travel cost and travel time.
So why wasn't that information provided to me?
It's right there on the invoice.
Where?
It says travel cost, 922.32.
Which invoice are you talking about?
The
On
one you-
821?
Yeah, the one you just indicated to me. So if you look at the bulk of that invoice, it totals up the time at $13,050, right?
Yeah.
And then below that, there's a line item that says travel costs, 922.32.
But doesn't that have to be itemized?
Well, I don't pay the bills. I don't know how finance
And that's the point I'm
does
trying
that.
to make, Mr. Vaughn, is that
I
on
just-
this bill, invoice, it gives me 2 hours of travel time. So all I could do is calculate the 2 hours at the cost that we paid him. Any other costs for travel costs, I do not see on this invoice. All I see is a total dollar amount at the bottom. And that's the way it is on every single one. I've added up what he has claimed on here. I'll give you the one for September of this year, 2023. His total travel, like there's 3 hours travel, 3 hours travel, 3 hours travel. And all that added up to $2,250.
Correct.
But we paid him $6,003.83. So I just need to know where the other
Yeah,
costs are coming from because they're not itemized on his invoice.
Yeah, I don't process the bills, so I don't know how.
And I
those
thought the
items-
contract that he signed indicated that everything had to be itemized.
So
So
it's good thing we're
I'm not
cleaning up the
going to
contract.
beat a dead horse on that, as sometimes I'm accused of doing. But I can't support this. I think we're way past due to hire somebody full-time in this position, to have a regular employee in our city so that staff can work with that person, not someone who comes in 9 days a month and is at home on the phone working with this person, that person, trying to settle something, or if he's on the phone with another client or off at another meeting and something comes up here, we don't have access to a full-time employee. It's time to move forward, and I don't know, why the city manager's digging in his heels to not want to put an announcement out here. Having a relationship with someone is good, but when our previous financial director resigned, we had to build a relationship with Mr. Kuhn. He was temporary. That's what it was supposed to be. And so now it looks like it's turning into something that looks more permanent. And it really concerns me as to why we're taking this direction. And to just have someone give you the same answer over and over again without justification just does not make sense to me. So I feel like it's time for us to move forward and to hire someone in this position. We have job announcements out, as I said, for other positions in our city. Why not this one? We have job announcements out for a public director, engineer, assistant public director, for police department, for other agencies within other departments within our city. Why not this position? This is a very important position to keep our city running, and we need someone permanent in this position that's not temporary and can go away at any time, whether it's on the city's part or whether it's on the other person's part. So I will not support this contract. I can't do it in good conscience. It's time for us to move forward and staff our employees, full staff employees here that we can depend on and not have contractors. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I'll give it back to you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Jones.
Councilmember Lewis, your argument really doesn't hold water. I mean, let's just go back and see. If we look into the South Bay, I don't know one agency over there. There might be somebody, some city. They don't even have their own police department. They contract with the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department. So contracting out is regular business. We contract with our city attorney, and if Bill Vaughn ever retires, we'll contract with the next city attorney, so forth, so on. It's not like Los Banos can capture a lot of highly qualified people that live in town that want to work for government. Government naturally does not breed creativity. So what it sounds like is you want to get rid of one of our all-star quarterbacks that is responsible for rearranging our investment account that was before with a full-time employee that we had that was managing our books, that was giving us about a 0.25% return, probably well over 4.5% return now with Brent Kuhn because he looks at things a little differently because he's an all-star. That was also able to give us a 15% raise to our first responders last year and 10% to everybody else. We wouldn't have been able to do that if Brent Kuhn didn't come in. So the fact that you want to swap him out and try to find someone local that will come in and do the same job, it's just not going to happen. So I'm perfectly fine with contracting out to professionals because that's going to be more and more the modern solution to these problems that we're facing every day in California. We just don't have the options in the city for qualified individuals to fit all these needs. And you'll see across the board, even private employers having the same issue with finding qualified applicants. It's just, there's not 10 of them that are qualified that are ready to go at any time. So this is the solution for now. It may not be permanent, but it fixes the problem that we have right now, which is somebody to oversee our books. So I think this is great. This is just a cleanup job from a previous contract that happened before Josh was here. So thank you, Josh, for coming in and recognizing that this just needs to be cleaned up, and let's move forward.
Councilmember Lambert.
Just a couple things. Also, yeah, we are cleaning up the contract. But do you recall, Ms. Lewis, that we had any input on when Tom signed that contract? I don't think we did. Another thing is, last council meeting, I pulled an item off the agenda, or off the consent agenda, correct? Because nobody else pulled it. Clarifying one thing, at year end's investments. This is after our raises that we gave to our first responders and to our employees. He increased our investment 28%, 86 million to 108 million. So how can you go wrong there? I didn't see none of that back several years ago with our previous. Also, I don't believe there's a time limit or a term limit for having a contract employee. So he's done a hell of a job that we've asked him to do. And right now, I'm kind of agreeing with Mr. Jones. Who are we going to find? You know, we're not going to find anybody else that's willing. And if everybody looks at his contract, if we did pay an employee, I remember several meetings ago, I told everybody to look at the physical impact of what it is every month. Yeah, there's some others on there. And you're going to see it on the next consent item that when we get to talk to it on our physical impact each month is $31,293 for this one. You'll see the next one on the next item. We'll discuss that one probably also. But remember, physical impact is what it's pretty much what we're impacted each month by this impact.
And it also shows here, what if we paid health insurance, if we did bring him on as a quarterback? All the extra it would be twice as much. So keeping it as a contract is totally different with the cost of what it's going to be a physical impact. And you'll see that on the next item also. So that's the only comments I wanted to make. And just remember that last meeting that I said, 28%. We've never had a finance director get us that much on our investments in the several years that I went back and looked over. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say, council member, you like to take a lot of stabs at me about, did anybody look at the contract that was signed before? Did you make any statements about it? Did you bring anything up? But you always refer to me as if I'm the only person sitting up here. You had a say also, but you didn't say anything. So also in regards to what kind of money we were receiving on investments that we had out there, you have to remember a few years back, we weren't getting much of any kind of percentage on investments. Banks weren't paying anything. Investment companies weren't paying anything. Interest is up higher now. So we're making more money on what we have in our investments. It's just common sense. So don't try to make it look like, our previous person was a bad employee who didn't do investments. Matter of fact, every year we got awards for how we handled our finances here in Los Banos. Every year. I haven't seen anything in the last couple of years. Are we bringing in the auditors to look at our books to see if we're handling things properly and recommending whether or not we get these awards? Haven't seen anything. So, don't throw the other person in the with the baby in the tub and the water all out at the same time. You have to look at apples and apples and compare them. So yes, we're making more money now because more money is being paid in investments.
Yeah, no, Ms. Lewis, it's clear you have a personal vendetta against Brent Kuhn, just like our local, hold on, I'm talking. Do not cut me off. You didn't like that before. Just like, hold on. It's very clear because you attack our staff every meeting. And I think it's because you don't understand or you dug this hole so deep, the only way to get out of it is you got to dig deeper. You have colluded with so many others, especially that personal blog that's disguised as a newspaper, which, Gene, you do have a vendetta against us. I don't know why, but you do, because you never report any of the stuff that's getting done. You never report all the projects that have been on hold for so long and all of a sudden they're just now getting done. Nope, you only want to try to manipulate the truth.
Let's stay on the topic.
All right. But every meeting, Deborah, you got to pull something off because you don't like it, you don't feel it's routine. And we can go back and we can go back and forth and show something that you have routinely approved that is pretty much a similar thing. Yeah.
Thank you. So I just want to let the public know the reason I pull things off is because everything's on the consent agenda. And you as a public have the right to know how your money is being spent, your tax dollars. Most of what's on these consent agendas is not routine. And there's a lot of money being spent. So I'll take the attacks. They can attack me all day and accuse me of colluding, whatever the case may be, or hating somebody. I don't hate anybody. I'm just pulling things off. I'm asking the questions so that you, the public, and taxpayers get to know how your money is being spent. And if that's how they accuse me, then so be it. I'll accept it. But I will still pull things off the consent agenda when I think you as the public, no matter who comes to the lectern up there to ask questions, I will pull it to ask questions to make sure there's some clarity. I may not ask all the questions, but I'm going to ask what I can figure out since I don't have any communication with anybody and try to figure this out so you, the taxpayers, can have some vision about how your tax dollars are being spent. And that is my sole purpose. So if anyone up here on this dais thinks that I'm doing it for some nefarious reason, they're absolutely wrong. Okay, and I'm done, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna go last. Looking at this from a business standpoint, and that's strictly all I'm looking at it. I do have experience working with CFOs, pretty much in every county in the state. And the one thing that I've seen is you can't replace knowledge. You can't replace, especially when it comes to strategic financial planning. $3 million in interest gain in 6 months. I'm sorry, but that's worth every penny. That is worth every penny. $3 million in 6 months of interest gain. I was a city employee when our prior finance director worked here. And I did get a feel of from some of the other city employees. And what I heard in the past was, we don't have any money. We can't spend any money. There is no money. I heard that the entire time I think I worked here at the city. And then, Mr. Kuhn comes along and says, hey, we do have money. We just need to program it properly. We need to spend it in the things that it's meant to be spent for. And then we need to invest it properly. So that's strategic financial planning. That's how I look at it, strictly from a business standpoint. Also, compared to what the price of things are and the cost of things, I've been an independent contractor for the state, so I know all about invoicing and billing and travel time and that sort of thing. And again, those are customary. That's just part of doing business. A previous total compensation for a previous position, finance director, at the tune of $297,000 a year in annual costs. And now we're going to see, an amount with that's comparable and even lower. And we're seeing the work that gets done and the amount of money that we're actually making. To me, it's a no-brainer. Mr. Kuhn, he has an amazing reputation across the street. I've, heard about the awards that we have received for finance and audit and documenting. And even going back 7 years, he was part of that. He's actually helped the city for a while in some of that. And so he's been a big part of the accomplishments that our city has. Rather, he's a, full-time employee that lives across the street. I'll just tell you from a financial background, I don't care where my CFO works. You can be in Russia and work out a spreadsheet. It doesn't matter. You don't need to be in the brick and mortar building. It's not like Public Works. It's not like Parks and Recreation. You're talking about money and financing. If you can strategize money, that can be done anywhere. So to me, that's not important of where the person is located that's doing it. Obviously, there has to be collaboration with city staff. The other thing for me was what does city staff think? I think that's the most important thing. I haven't heard a negative thing said about him at all. That he's very responsive, that he likes to explain things. I've sat down with him and asked him some questions, and I'm a little bit of a nerd, and I kind of speak stuff like ROI and P&Ls and things like that. And he was very forthcoming and explained things to me, so that I can understand. So I look at it as this is a cleanup contract. Looking at some of the older invoicing, I think it's much cleaner to pay somebody an hourly fee period, and the costs that go along with them traveling or jumping on an airplane or choosing to drive, that's all assumed in the cost, just because that makes better sense. I just want to cut one bill for $1 amount, and that we're not itemizing which airline the person chose or how expensive a rental car. That's not important. It's important is the out the door cost that we're looking at. So I'm looking at it again. You're paying under $300,000 to manage and strategize $50+ million a year. And so, again, I think the return on investment has proven itself, in my opinion. So, Councilmember Jones, you have? Okay. All right. So at this time, I'll accept, and we're doing them individually, correct, Councilmember Lewis? Okay. All right. Do I have a motion just for item E? Motion just on item E. Councilmember Lambert.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion on item E, approving resolution number 6703 as read.
Thank you. Councilmember Jones.
I'll second that.
All right. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Lambert,
Yes.
Pagonia,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Lewis, Yanes.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. All right. And then you had item F, correct? Okay. Yeah, if we could bring back Mr. Kuhn. Can we wait just 1 second for him to?
Oh, you want to wait for him?
Yeah, he's
Okay.
coming back in. Councilmember Lewis, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the report says that, under background, that in the 22-23 fiscal year budget, that the city council approved the purchase of this backhoe from Garton at $52,562 and change. And it talks about due to supply and demand, that the backhoe attachment was not available by June 30th. At the invoices that I'm looking at in here, it looks like we went through Well Source, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and on the invoice, it shows that a date of June 28th, 2023. Was that the date of order for this backhoe?
I believe June 28th, 2023 was the date of arrival for the main tractor unit. So the item tonight is an attachment, a backhoe attachment to it. The item itself is a small backhoe tractor that has multiple attachments. And so the delivery of that was at the end of June.
Okay, and I understand that. What I'm trying to find out is, since the council had approved this back in the 2022-23 fiscal year budget, how quickly did we get on the job of ordering the tractor and the backhoe?
Yes, so just quick correction. This wasn't brought as an individual item to City Council. It was brought as part of the fiscal year 22-23 budget, and it was ordered immediately upon the beginning of that fiscal year. Unfortunately, we've seen it throughout our fleet purchases that it just the lead time on it has been extensive, including rolling into additional fiscal years.
Okay, and also in the attachments for this particular item, there's no date on it, but I see what looks like a purchase order from Well Source for the backhoe, and the total at the bottom comes to $11,334.76. And we have a separate, appears to be maybe invoice from Garton for the $12,213.21. I thought that when we're ordering from Well Source, whatever price they come up with, that's the price that we pay. So could you help me understand the difference?
Yeah, so first of all, looking at the $11,334.76, that's before tax. So if you look on page 53, it will have that item there, and you look at the bottom, it'll show California county tax, state tax, Merced local tax, and that ends up raising it from the $11,334.76 to the $12,213.21. Regarding the original price for the unit, unfortunately, that's just something that has been common with equipment, is then the price has been changing. That's just due to supply and demand reasons. It's not something that we're really very, very happy with, right? It's just part of the process of where we're at as far as fleet-wide that goes for trucks and equipment.
Okay, so staff is asking for an increase in the budget of $12,214 to buy the backhoe out of budget number 100-452-100-753. But there's no money in that budget for this fiscal year. So where is the money going to come from?
The money that we're requesting is from the general fund. That account line item is general fund maintenance line item. The reason why there was no money budgeted this fiscal year, which began July 1st, is because we anticipated this piece of equipment to arrive prior to July 1st, 2023. Unfortunately, the full package did not. So we did receive the tractor backhoe itself, but not the attachment, which is what we're requesting funding tonight for.
So do you have the line item and that it's going to come out of?
So yes, the line item both for last fiscal year, that what was paid for the actual unit, and for what the attachment is, that's the capital line item 100-452-100-753, which is, I believe, specialized equipment.
Yes, but again, and maybe I'm not understanding
Absolutely.
this at your level, but there's zero money in there, and you said it's going to come out of the general fund. So what portion of the general fund, what budget number is that going to come out of? Does anybody
It's
know?
the general fund reserve
Just
that
the-
will be, we're asking for an amendment from the general fund into that line item so that there'll be funding available for the purchase.
I just want to see in the budget here where that number is and how much we have it in there.
It would be the total general fund reserve. I'm not sure what our, in the millions, what our general fund. It's general fund, the same as our, public safety, parks and rec, those, the larger, the main base general fund for the city.
Okay. All right. All right, so those are my questions for that.
All right, do I have a motion for item F? Councilmember Lambert.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve resolution number 6704 as read.
Thank you. Councilmember Begonia.
Second the motion.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. I move on to item H. Councilmember Lewis.
Okay, basically, the report stands as it's printed, and my question is pretty much similar, the same, is that in the budget, we only have $322,000 for this project. So there's an additional $94,470 requested to complete six parks. Is it 4? I thought it was 6. I'm sorry. Well, yeah. See, 1, 2, 3 parks. And then the certification and playground chips and I guess large page.
It would be Little Page Park, College Greens Park,
yes.
Gardens 1,
Okay.
and Gardens 3.
So there are 4 parks. Okay, so again, the additional money, are we looking to take that out of the general fund?
This item is out of our Measure H reserve, which thankfully through the years since 2019 that the Measure H was implemented, we have fortunately built up a reserve in Parks and Recreation. One of the priorities that we have established is replacing playgrounds. That's something that we've been doing from Measure H, really from its outstart. So fortunately there is a reserve available, and yes, we're requesting. We have a base amount of 322 that we put in the budget. Unfortunately, both installations have come in at a higher rate than we were anticipating as well. We anticipated completing Little Page before July 1st, but due to a bridge part that was not sent to us correctly, that ran into July, and we ended up installing that in August. So that part of it as well, but additionally, the installation fees have been higher than we anticipated. So that's why we're requesting additional funding.
Okay, so again, where is the additional money coming from?
So Measure H prior to my arrival was all in the general fund, and it was kind of commingled with that. And we still externally report this as general fund money. We moved all of the Measure H funds to another fund so that we could track it better. So the amount. So are you talking about the appropriate? Where's the appropriation?
Yes, out of what?
So the
account
the appropriation will come out of the Measure H fund, of which has a fund balance. So it has amounts that have built up over the years. So in terms of matching revenue and expense, is that what your question is?
Well, this particular the 322,000 is in the park and rec equipment, and it has an account number.
Right.
So the additional 94,000 that you're asking for, what account number is that money coming out of?
the 101 Measure H fund as a greater whole.
Yeah. So when we're asking for these funds, that means that it will increase that budget line item in the line item that you're stating. So the account string that is on here is where it's going to be recorded in the general ledger.
So you have to take something out of another portion of a Measure H account to put it in this one?
No, we increase the apportionment for that line item, and then at the end of the year, whatever that change is will become fund equity position in that fund. So we're not taking from one or another. There was funds that were built up that we have in that fund. The appropriations that we need to buy this will increase that line item appropriation by this amount. That's why we're requesting
So the money's
that.
already in that same account number is what you're telling me?
That's why we're requesting it, yes.
Okay. So, once you get the additional monies out of this particular account number to do the parks and the various things you want to do, is that going to bring it down to zero, or are you going to backfill it with some more money in case something else comes up?
So the appropriations will be exhausted for this project. So if there's anything additionally for this project, we would have to come back and ask for an amendment to that or an increase in appropriation.
Okay. All right. Well, there must be another place in this budget book that would tell me where the additional funds are. So I mean,
Okay, well, let's just, so let's say you have a bank account, cash. That's it. We have built up a cash account, so to speak, in Measure H. In terms of itemizing everything out by priority, we do that as well. So there was money that had built up in this. In the budget that you're looking at, that's an annual thing where it goes inflows and outflows.
Yes.
So when we don't quite have the appropriations in that book, we have to come back here and ask for it. And that's what we're doing with this.
all right. I
Okay.
understand what you're saying. I guess for me, not being an accountant or a financial person, I would just like to see, on my bank book, I got this much money in there, and I need to take this much out. What's left over? So I know this line item is what was requested for
Right.
this year. Now it's being exhausted. So for me, as a layperson, I just want to see where that other money is. Where is it sitting in this budget?
Right. So it wouldn't be in that budget book. It will be in the financial statements, which we will be presenting once the audit is done. So they're two different external documents.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Do I have a motion on item H? Councilmember Lambert.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 6706 as read.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Begonia.
I'll second the motion.
All right. All those in favor? Aye. All right. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. And now let's take a vote on the remaining consent agenda items. All right. So we have A, B, C, and D, and then G. The really cool one, in my opinion. Just saying. All right. Councilmember Jones.
Motion to approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, D, and G as submitted.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Begonia.
I'll second the motion.
All right. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Yes, and I will say, even though we're going to do kind of a big deal Friday, congratulations, Chief. Waited a long time to say that. All right. Let's move into item 8, public hearing. If you challenge the proposed action as described herein, court may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described herein or in written correspondence delivered to the city at or prior to the public hearing. So we'll go to item 8A to receive public comment consideration of an update to the Los Banos zoning map in accordance with the Los Banos General Plan Update 2042 that was adopted October 19th, 2022. The zoning map update is exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines sections 15162, 15168, 15183, and 15061 B3. Proposed updates entirely consistent with and implements the general plan land uses established in the general plan. For which an environment impact report, EIR, SC number 2022010-254 was prepared and certified. And for this, we'll go to Community and Economic Development Director Susan Helms.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. So just some background, our zoning map is adopted as a part of the zoning code. So it lives within the municipal code and depicts land use. It has overlays in specific districts. That's the colorful map that you see in the planning department. That's the zoning map. Every city in California has an existing zoning ordinance, which our zoning map is a part of that. And any changes to the zoning ordinance would need to consist of either map amendments or text amendments. So that's what we have before you tonight, is a zoning map amendment. So back in October 19th, 2022, the City Council adopted General Plan Update 2042. Government code does require zoning ordinances to be consistent with the general plan and any applicable specific plans. So California Government Code requires that our zoning code, our zoning map, has to be in compliance with our general plan. That means we need to update that map in order to be in compliance with our new adopted general plan update. So with the general plan update, we corrected inconsistencies and made some updates where needed to comply with state law. I do want to highlight some of those changes that were made in the general plan that then are now also reflected in the zoning map. In downtown, the mixed use designation was expanded southeast along J Street. We have multiple uses with houses and some commercial uses as J Street heads towards Pacheco. We designated sites along Overland, Mercy Springs, San Luis, and Santa Rita for higher density as needed to comply with the housing element. We have important industrial and employment park areas that are located southeast of Pacheco and Ward, also Wilmot and H Street, and our existing airport. And then there were some cleanups with civic institutional designations that were applied in scattered sites to reflect our existing and future uses. I just want to jump ahead. That looks, hopefully you all can see. So this is the zoning map update. And the zoning map, I do want to clarify. So in the packet, there is the zoning map, which is on page 113, and then there's the general plan update, which is page 114. But tonight, we are only looking at the zoning map. And the zoning map only looks at the city proper, what is the incorporated city limits of the city of Los Banos, which the general plan looks out much broader. So looking at our incorporated city limits, we are updating our land uses to reflect those changes that were done with the general plan. So we talked about the downtown, and that's J Street with the mixed use. We highlighted the industrial areas here along West H Street, Pacheco and Ward. And then we had some high density sprinkled throughout pockets in specific areas. And then we updated the map for civic and institutional uses. So where schools weren't previously designated or parks, now we properly designated them. So to go back, on the environmental assessment, so adoption of the zoning map update is exempt from CEQA for the following reasons. So one, section 15183, the proposed zoning map update is consistent with the development density established by the existing zoning, community plan, and our general plan policies. And those are in accordance with the EIR that was certified with the general plan. Then number 2, section 15162. There are no changes since the adoption of the general plan EIR, which was a programmatic EIR that would constitute any changes for the zoning map. Those changes are consistent now with each other, and that was studied within that certified EIR, which is an environmental impact report. And then the last one is section 15168, and that all of these items have been covered within the scope of the general plan EIR, and no further environmental review is required. And that meets all of the findings necessary for a categorical exemption. So public comment. Public notices were published in the Merced Sun-Star on October 20th, 2023, and as of today's date, no written comments have been received. Again, this is the zoning map update. I did receive a comment, but it was more of a clarification from Ms. Avalar, and the City Council adopted this area behind Save Mart as low-density residential. And that was based on public comment that we received through the public hearing process of the general plan update. And I do want to highlight that is consistent with the zoning map. It is low-density residential. So with that, staff is recommending that the City Council would waive the first reading and introduce by title ordinance number 1203 to amend the official zoning map for the City of Los Banos. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you for that. Do we have any questions before we open up to the public hearing? Questions from council? All right, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing.
Hello, my name is Blanche George, and I live in the downtown area. This might not apply. I know that there's always changes that happen, and especially to our original part of our town, which is the downtown area. I know that our economic development, Ms. Souza, has worked really hard with design standards and is being formed right now. As a reminder of the different zone changes that are going on, please consider as they do go on that the authentic buildings that are part of downtown, whether or not they become high density or commercial, fit within the parameters of the downtown area. But I know that you're doing that, so I'm a fan. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. All right, and do I have a motion? What's that? Yep. Sorry, motion to waive the first meeting. Councilmember Jones.
Yes, before I make this motion, just want to show the public, this is a non-routine item, so it's not on the consent agenda. But with that, I'd like to make a motion to waive the first reading of ordinance number 1203 as submitted.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Lambert.
Mr. Mayor, I'll second.
Thank you. All right, and if I get a roll call vote.
Lambert,
Yes.
Begonia, Jones, Lewis, Yamas.
Yes. Thank you. All right, and then we'll move on to item. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Councilmember Jones.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to introduce ordinance number 1203 as submitted.
I'm always learning, always learning. Councilmember Lambert.
I'll second.
All right. And do we need a roll call vote for this? All right. All right, so let's do a roll call for this.
Lambert,
Yes.
Begonia, Jones,
Yes.
Lewis, Yamas.
Yes. All right, thank you for that. All right, now moving on to item 9, advisement of public notices And I understand we have 3 reports for this. I'll go to Community Economic Development Director Susan Elms.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. So the first item is for Ramon Huerta, doing business as California Del Sur. This is for a mobile food vendor within the public right-of-way. The second item is for a Type 41 alcohol license. This is a conditional use permit for Biggins Texas Barbecue located at 609 I Street. And the last item is for Bottom Line Group, proposing to develop through a site plan review a Starbucks in the Home Depot Shopping Center. This would be located at 2101 East Pacheco Boulevard. These public hearings will be held on Wednesday, November 8th at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. And that concludes my report.
Thank you so much. Move on to item 10, City Manager Report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, this last Saturday, we had a trunk or treat event at the Ag Complex, and I just want to give a big thank you to the entire staff that worked on that. There's just a multitude of individuals, and I just want to say thank you very much. And under their Director Joe Heim, thanks for all the hard work you put in, and you and your team. It was a very well attended event. I believe it's one of our largest events that we put on in the city. It was a lot of fun. They had a really cool maze that was out there. If you had a chance to go out there, it was really cool. If you were 6'5", you'd be able to cheat and look over the maze. But if you weren't, then you maybe got lost a little bit. But it was a really well attended event. Thank you to all the folks in the community that showed up and all of our partners. So it was a really great time. So thank you so much, staff, for all the hard work on that. That was a job well done for sure. So thank you to everybody for those that are here or not here. Appreciate that. The other one, exciting news is G Street just got paved. So all this happened, literally these things I'm mentioning has happened in the last couple of weeks. So G Street just got paved right in front of the police station all the way up and towards Mercy Springs. So that's good. As we speak right now, Birch Street is getting paved, and that's a big stretch of road that's being able to get done right now across the street. The annex building, there's some tile that was on the front that's getting chipped off and getting repainted, restuccoed. So we're really excited about that. A bunch of trees have been trimmed all along Madison, Washington, and Jefferson, I believe it is, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of work has been done over there. Right now, as we speak, we got a new playground that's being installed at Gardens One Park, along with all the playgrounds that we've got listed here today. So just a lot of activity taking place there. Another one is we have Ray Reyna has been passed today his contract being promoted. That's another exciting thing that we're going on. So Chief Ray Reyna, it's been great having you. On top of that, for folks that know or don't know, we are actually having an event for Chief Ray Reyna. It will be on this Friday at 3 p.m. So we are hosting a ceremony for him, his badge pinning. So if you folks can make it, please be there. So it's not something that we're taking lightly. We really appreciate all the work and service that he's done for us, and we're excited to have Ray take over the helm at the police station. Also, this Friday at 10 a.m., we have the grand opening ribbon cutting of the police station, and then at 3 p.m. we are having the promotion for Ray Reyna. So I just want to say thank you to him for all his hard work, and then for some of you folks that do know, and I know Mike Hughes came up here and mentioned at 11 a.m. today on Saturday, we are having the Veterans Parade. So if you folks can come on over for that, that would be great. So we got a lot of, between Friday and Saturday, some fun stuff for us to all come out and join. So thank you folks for all that. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Move on to item 11, report update, Merced County Association of Governments, MCG, Peninsula Clean Energy, TCE, Measure V Committee, San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District, and Los Banos Downtown Property and Business, the LBP bid. So we'll start with Councilmember Lewis. You have anything? Sorry.
All right, so effective today, November 1st, residential wood burning, both in your fireplace and outdoors, goes into effect. So that means that you would need to check with valleyair.org to see what burning days are available and what days you cannot burn wood. These events are becoming more and more severe in the state of California by virtue of CARBs, which is the California Air Resources Board, as they hand down new laws and codes in our state about burning wood. And with that, you can also check online at valleyair.org for available grants to purchase either gas or electric fireplace inserts. And some of it is income-based, which would be up to, I think it's like $3,500. If it's not income-based, I think they give you a maximum of about $1,500 to go towards the purchase of a gas insert or an electric insert. It's late in the season, and most people don't think about this, but Valley Air also offers grants for lawn care, for zero-emission equipment, which is available for residential and commercial, and that is also at valleyair.org. That's it, my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Jones, anything on the Downtown Association?
Nothing on the downtown PBID.
Okay.
Or downtown.
All right. I'll start with MCG Measure V Committee. We had our West Side Measure V Committee. Super happy that 3 Los Banos projects have been selected to move forward to the next phase. And so hopefully the entire board, we're going to vote on those and get those approved. They're all traffic-related intersections and things that we've needed for a very long time. And so I was very happy to hear that that 3 of the projects got pushed forward. So thank you, city staff, for really making those an effort with MCAG, and I was happy to be your voice for that. Also, Peninsula Clean Energy. So we have our monthly meetings, and then we also, I'm part of a subcommittee for excess funds that's with PCE. And so that's one of the things is I've just tried to be your voice as far as, getting that money back to Los Banos. And so we're nearing the conclusion of that. Super happy. The people at PCE have been amazing, very receptive to me. We've had some great dialogue, and so I'm hoping that we can share some good news before the holidays regarding what they're going to do with some of those funds and some of the priorities to get it back to our community. So super happy about that, and I'll have an update on that. And then I think that's all I have for that. So for that, we'll go to item 12, City Council member reports. Councilmember Jones.
Yes, Mayor. I'd like to apologize for veering off topic earlier, but I'd like to share my thoughts on the importance of media delivering accurate and impartial information for the benefit of the public. It's no surprise our publisher and editor of the West Side Express has exhibited a personal bias against individuals like our city manager and some of the council members. It seems like this sentiment is shared by a council member over on this far side as well. They tend to focus solely on the city's shortcomings, and they neglect to report any of the positive items that are going on, like all our projects and ongoing positive developments. So it's just a shame that that's going on. Hopefully it cleans up here soon, but it'd be nice if the newspaper could start reporting all the projects and all the positive things that are going on. So with that being said, congratulations, Ray Reyna, on your promotion. We look forward to that. So congratulations.
All right, thank you. Next report, Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you. I would also echo that I want to give my congratulations to Commander Raimundo Reyna Jr. He's been an exemplary employee in our department. He also was the acting fire chief before we hired our new fire chief and did an excellent job there. He's just a well-rounded, well-knowledgeable person. And I'm so very happy that you were the chosen person to do this. Without question, he was the one for this job. So congratulations on your appointment. That's it. Thank you.
Go to Councilmember Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not going to rant like I did last meeting, hopefully, but just a couple of things. I'll congratulate Mr. Reyna. I look forward to seeing you out there. I'll see you Friday at 3 o'clock also, for sure. Also, I apologize to Miss Lewis. Sometimes you get a little too agitated on some things. I'll try to keep it a little more cordial next time if I do have to. I hope not, but apologize for that way. Also, everyone out there in the audience, if you haven't already, you can YouTube any city or even maybe visit another city councilman. Watch how they conduct themselves on their meetings.
because they're no different from our meetings. We stay pretty much all the same. There's consent items and there's agenda items. Like I've said in the past, we hire a city manager. The city manager hires department heads. We have to rely on our department heads, which we've got wonderful department heads all around, to do their jobs. If we had to sit and be straight up, I'm totally with you on tax. I pay tax too, and I want my tax dollars to go to the right places too. But I also have a business too, and you got to spend money to make money. So the items that we usually put on consent agenda, you guys have them the same time we see them, on Friday afternoon. We have that opportunity to go either meet or talk, all of us, to talk with our department heads to get the clarification on it. Did you guys, most of it, we have to be sometimes clarified on some of it because a lot of it don't understand it. Don't understand those big dollars like they do. But they clarify it for us. So those items are put on consent agenda item so we could kind of speed up the process, of all of our meetings. And be up straight, I've pulled items off the consent agenda myself to discuss if it's something I didn't get clarified during the week. But I don't pull all of them. But I just want to say that we have to rely on our department heads to do their job because that's what their job are doing. Our job is basically policies and procedures. And yes, we do try to make sure everything is spent correctly. But it's not our job to question the professional because I'm not a professional at finance. But yes, we do hope that they're doing their job to get the correct amount that, getting us the best buck for the dollar. So each item, I look at it like this. Our country has got $1 trillion budget, can't get passed. But are they going to all the states and talking to all the constituents, about how the tax dollars are getting spent? No, but we have to rely on the Senate and the House to pass the budget to help us out. And I can tell you right now, it's not. I mean, I hate to see it, the way it's going. It's the same way right here. You guys see our budget, or you guys see our consent agenda item. We get out, we talk, and we hope that they got the best deal. We bring it to council, and we try to pass it. And if it did, like I said, I pulled items off myself. We haven't pulled off. I pulled one last week just to discuss it because it didn't get pulled. Yeah, it wasn't about our tax dollars, but it was about talking about the 28% that we increased at year-end's investments. But we still, all of us up here, Ms. Lewis, we're all out to make sure that the city spends this money wisely. It's not we just throw money out. I look at the very last part of it, just like the physical impact, and to see what our year-end impact is. And we're well above our 30%. I guess, that we talked about 3 or 4 meetings ago. Our 30% bottom. So I look at it like our city has got to take care of business to keep this city running in an efficient manner. If we got a backhoe, that attachment, if we didn't get that attachment, that means we're going to have to do twice the work that backhoe has got to utilize for. So we got to have that attachment. It minimizes either labor or cost on certain things, and it brings the cost on some of the item, or some of the whatever we're doing with that item. It's not that they just want to purchase it and just set it out in the back lot. That item is being purchased to be utilized for our city. So, that's enough. All I got to say tonight, Mr. Mayor. I just want everyone to know we do what we can up here to keep this city running the way it needs. And by all means, I've seen that we're doing a pretty doggone good job. We've made money. We haven't lost money. So,
all right, thank you. Councilmember Gunner?
Yeah. I just want to say congratulations to Ray Reno, well deserved. And also congratulations to Joe Hyman and his incredible team on another amazing event that they continuously put on for the city. I think we got some frustration today between some council members, and they've all known each other a lot longer than I've known them, so maybe that's all par for the course. But No, we definitely need to just listen to what each other say. I mean, I don't. I'm never gonna. It's just not my nature. I'm a listener and a thinker. So every council member here has, the right to say what they want to say, and that's. They were voted to be up here, and all of us, and we got to respect each other. That's it.
All right. Thank you. I'll go last. So just a couple things, just for me. I will say that, again, and I appreciate, the apologies tonight, because, again, we can agree to disagree all day long, but we still have to be respectful. We still have a job to do. And I hopefully, there's nothing personal that goes on up here. And I think, again, 5 different voices, but we have to understand and maybe reverse engineer a little bit. The end goal is what's best for the city, right? And so we all kind of have our own different ways and opinions to do that. And I understand just a little bit of frustration. And I think it's kind of just, I think there's just a little miscommunication on the roles. As we sit up here, we're policy and procedure people. Our job is not to be the city manager. It's not to attempt to micromanage staff or, try to catch somebody in an aha moment. I think it's just to gather information and then we vote on it based on our best, the interests that they're given to us. One interesting thing that happened tonight in the public forum, a lot of people came forward and I kept hearing the word transparency and questions and updates. And of everyone that came forward and spoke, only one person has actually had a conversation with me outside of this area that came back. Actually, I've had emails from one and I've had a phone call from another. And again, none of those has happened recently. So if you want to come up here, by all means, you have your right. Come up, get your 5 minutes, say whatever you want. I will gladly take it, whatever it is, voice your concerns. But if you do want to have a sit down and have a conversation and work on things and try to plan things, I'm much more open to that because then I can talk back. And so I'm hoping to have more of a dialogue. So I appreciate Mr. Todd's comments. I'd be happy again to facilitate another town hall meeting on whatever topic the public wants to talk about because that's my job. And so thank you for that. Boy, Joe, you've been busy. Just saying, man. And the fact that it took me 11 minutes to get out of your maze, I was not impressed with that. But it's okay. It's okay. So my 9-year-old beat me out. But fantastic work on that whole thing. And then Councilmember Lewis and I were at the church event on L Street. Halloween night, and that was amazing. Thank you for helping out with translation and stuff. That was outstanding. So, those types of events we need to have more of. And again, we can agree to disagree on policies and all that stuff. That's fine. But again, the common goal is what we're doing, what's best for the city. So, and then last but not least, my old beat partner, Ray. Yeah, I got it. Sorry, but yes, been on a few 100 calls with Chief Reyna, and so I've been proud. To say that he's been a colleague and a friend of mine for a long time. So I'm absolutely looking forward to Friday. I hope the community come out because, not only you got a new job, you got a new house. I'm just saying you can't, not too many chiefs get that at the same time. So, and again, thank you to staff for putting all of this together. It's just been fantastic. So with that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Anyone? I'm going to stay here all night. Councilmember Lambert?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to adjourn.
All right, thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Jones?
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll adjourn at 8:13.